I don't know what's going on with the videos for StreamYard here over on YouTube, but they didn't play. I don't know. They were really choppy and stuff. That's fine. This is now my intro for PWT Talks NXT. I'm Nate Lindberg. This is PWT Talks NXT for November 12th, 2024, talking NXT on CW after our NXT ECW tribute show last week in Philadelphia. Kind of a bit of a reset here tonight as we spent the last few weeks kind of building to that show. Wasn't really a PLE, but it was a little bit of a special show. So now a bit of a reset here tonight. A lot to talk about. Kelly, unfortunately, is not able to be here tonight. So very graciously, they offered to join me here on the show tonight. Jobin, thanks for joining.
Anytime you need. I'm always just hanging out here watching the show anyway, so it just gives you a little something to do post show.
Exactly, right? And something for us to talk about, because we'd just be talking about this off air anyway.
True.
That's very true. Very true. All right. So let's get into the bread and butter of actually, before we do that, let's do some housekeeping, because I always forget to do that until later on in the show. If you want to be a part of this show, you can certainly email us, PWTorchNXT@gmail.com. If you're listening live on YouTube, you can just chat in the chat and we'll bring up your comments on screen. And VIP members, you should be able to actually, I don't have the link. I did the live report tonight. I'm not used to doing the live report. I don't think I have the link in there for VIP members if you want to join us. So the first time I throw to Jobin, I'll update that and put a link in there for VIP members if you want to join us, which is always a perk of going VIP. So with that, let us get into the main event. Well, let's actually get into the main event angle, and then we'll talk about the main event match. After the main event, which was Fallon Henley versus Kelani Jordan for the NXT Women's North American Championship, we had a bit of a tag team kerfuffle. I don't know why the word kerfuffle came to my brain, but that's what came to my brain. And we had all of the men's tag teams kind of spill out in a bit of a brawl after the main event. Now, why, might you ask? Earlier in the night, Ava, we saw Ava do what my managers like to do, and that's bring everybody into a conference room to have a discussion. I felt very corporate, and I don't like having the corporate world in my wrestling, but that's just because I live in the corporate world. Anyway, they're in a conference room. Ava's trying to build them up to be a bit of a better division and kind of maybe not better division's not the right word, maybe pump some energy into the tag team division. Something we've talked about here on the show for a while is the men's tag team division just kind of seemed to be bleh. So this still looks like they're trying to finally put some energy and a bit of a focus on the men's tag team division. So yeah, she was kind of building all of them up, and each one of the tag teams in the room, it was basically all of the men's tag teams, with the exception of the champions, Nathan Frazier and Axiom. We'll get into them later on in the show. At that point, all of the tag teams kind of verbally start fighting, and Ava puts a stop to that, and they go to the next segment. And then in the middle of the main event, we see a picture-in-picture where the men's tag teams start fighting in the back. And they only show that for maybe about 5 seconds or so. And then that leads to what I started talking about, all of the men's tag teams coming out, spilling out into a fight here to kind of close out the show. Before I get into actually how I feel about it, I'm kind of curious, because I don't think this is something that you and I have really talked about just when we're hanging out playing video games and stuff. What do you feel like the men's tag team division, compare to where the other divisions are, right? The men's singles division, the women's singles division, tag divisions, blah, blah, blah. Is the men's tag division better than those, worse than those? Do you feel like they need to put some focus on it right now? How did you like kind of the way they built this out? And is there a tag team that may stand out to you?
Well, in general, I think it probably does need that little bit of a push. Like you said, it sort of has been a little, or at least feeling a little more stagnant. 3 times in one show to build up for this, maybe a tad excessive, especially with the cutaway in the middle of another match on top of the other 2 times that they were planning on bringing it up for the night. So maybe a little hair overdone in my opinion. But I think it'll be good to get some energy into the tag division, because for a long time we were just getting, like, we'd have a Chase U match, and then we had that little string of back and forths with Frazier, Axiom, and this was only like over the last couple of months. Who was it?
The other guys, I don't remember
Yeah,
off the top of my head either.
Had been going back and forth with a couple different groups over the last few months, and it just kind of felt very centric on that. But you do have OTM, you do have Hank and Tank, you've a lot of these other people that aren't getting as much screen time more lately, but on the whole, not maybe as much screen time as I would like, because I love a good tag team match. And as you said, we are getting really, really good, women's tag division matches lately. They've Jada Parker and
Women's division in general is insane right now.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. We've had different people going up to Raw and SmackDown, coming back down to NXT. So like we've been cycling people between all the shows. That's been great. The men's tag division hasn't had any of that. As far as a standout team, I really haven't thought about it super hard.
It was like when you kind of think back to like who was sitting around the table. Like there was the family, there was OTM, Hank and Tank, Gallus.
Yeah,
and
I
I
feel
think
like
I know there's a few other team.
I feel like Gallus will do well in this, whether they're maybe the winning team of it. I'm not sure, but I think they'll do well, because they want to position them as these really strong powerhouse guys, which is great.
I hope.
So yeah, that might be my, off the top of my head right now, not putting a ton of thought into it so far.
Yeah.
Maybe Gallus.
All right, cool. I put you on the spot, so it's totally fine. It's totally fine.
I hadn't thought about it. We just saw it happen.
I know, right? No, like immediately thinking about it, I think the family is probably going to be pushed pretty strong here, just considering where they've been on the card. The fact that we saw Adriana Rizzo wrestle Nikita Lyons tonight, we'll talk about that a little bit too. They're all
by
over
association with the Dawn and his title.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we might see Luca and Stacks get some time to shine here. I also think OTM. We've this is actually something that I remember talking about, I think, with Kelly a few weeks ago. What's going on with OTM? Like they came in with, I wouldn't say there was a whole bunch of hype behind them. There was a little bit of hype behind them, and then they had a strong showing for a little while, then they just started losing. And now I think it might be their time to shine again, which is so, it happens in NXT and developmental, sometimes they're not ready for that push or whatever the reason was. Sometimes we'll see a bit of a push and then they pull back a bit and then they really push them again, 6 months, a year later, however long it is. So OTM, I think, is my pick for like a bit of a standout. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see where that goes. I like this. The tag team division, the men's tag division, has needed some sort of injection of energy into it. It's really been the Nathan Frazier and Axiom show for a while now, and I've had my moments where I like it and I don't like it, and not that I don't like the two of them, but I feel like it's just kind of grown stale. You might have even said that. I don't remember. But I feel like it's just kind of grown stale. I want something a bit different. And I'm kind of hopeful that this is what is different. One thing that we just mentioned was the women's division and how strong the women's division is right now. And it's like, I think back to NXT 2.0, and I remember how just kind of broken up Kelly, Bruce, and I were at the time about the women's division. We had some women get, let go. There were women that were brought up to the main roster. And so the NXT women's division was just really blah. And considering that just a couple years prior, we had, Kairi Sane and Candice LeRae and, Io Sky, Shirai at the time, and just all these other amazing women in NXT. And I remember saying at the time, like, wrestling's cyclical. Everything in wrestling is cyclical, including rosters. And we're now at a point where we've kind of completed that cycle. Like, there have been some amazing women that have come through NXT between NXT 2.0 and now. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that there hasn't been. But I look at that roster right now and how stacked it is with Julia, Stephanie Vaquer, Kelani, people like who in the main event, which is what I'm leading up to. Kelani Jordan and Fallon Henley. They may not have the star power of Stephanie Vaquer and Julia, but damn, they can go. Just about all of the women that have been featured tonight and continue to be featured are right up there. I know you are a big fan of the women's division, so it's kind of why I'm leading up to this, not necessarily into the main event, kind of talking a little bit more loosely about the women's division. But how do you feel about the women's division? What are you excited about? Especially with like Julia and Stephanie and everything going on with Cora and Roxy and all of that. What are you excited about? And then if you want to kind of build into the main event for the North American Championship.
So I think, like you said, we do have these new big acquisitions, Julia and Stephanie, who have been on TV almost every week since their debut, which is really impressive because that's something we don't always necessarily see in WWE as a whole. They like to bring people in, tease them with a match, and then you don't see them for 2 months. It's a slight exaggeration, but it does seem to happen more often than I would like.
Jade Cargill, that was a perfect example there.
And that's kind of one of the things I was hinting at, things like that, or teasing somebody overly long and then not having them around a whole lot, different things like that they like to do. But I mean, there's a lot of, if they can sort out some of the very hard to remember names that they seem to be stuck on, I think they'll be having a good time because all of the talent is there. It's just I can't remember anybody's name week to week. Like Carly Bright jumps to mind just because we happen to see her tonight, but like it's not a name that's easy to remember for me. It's just not super memorable. But
and I don't even think we saw her tonight. I think it was Brinley Reese. So which proves your point.
Oh, I think you're right. So, if they can sort out that, I think we'll be in very good shape. But like I said, as far as the talent itself, it's great. You have a lot of very, 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 very talented women that are getting, I would say, at least a solid 50% of the screen time most weeks, or at least it feels that way. So that's making me very happy. And Sol Ruca is getting a little bit more of a push, which I think is good because they were pushing her a lot after she had come back from that knee injury, leg injury, knee injury.
It was a leg injury of some sort. I think it was the knee, but I don't remember entirely off the top of my head.
When she came back from her injury, it felt like they were pushing her really hard, and they kind of eased back on that. Now they're seeming to push her a little bit more again. So that's been great. Cora Jade coming back, I think, has been a nice boost to Roxy's whole storyline, that whole title run, all of that. I think one way or another, Cora Jade will be a big part of this title run. Whether that's, she turns and goes after the title, or they actually continue as friends, and she's there as that backup that, like I was thinking tonight, like Kelani Jordan, that doesn't really have any friends, doesn't have any backup, which is now something that Roxy has, as and having friends as a champion is good because everyone's going to jump you all the time for whatever reason, pretty much weekly.
Especially in that damn parking lot.
Yeah, exactly. They really, like one or two more security guards, I think, could do them wonders out there.
I have this theory that the parking lot is just this sovereign nation that is just like ungoverned by any entity, and whatever happens out there happens. Sometimes they have police. They've done that, but man, that parking lot, it's a scary place.
It's
Scary
just
place.
having a rough time for everybody. But anyway, speaking of Kalani, that's probably a good lead in for you to talk about the main event.
Yes. So Fallon Henley versus Kelani Jordan for the North American Championship. We saw Fallon Henley go over in, hey, look at this. I actually remembered to take times tonight in 9 minutes and 32 seconds. I really liked this match personally. Both of these women, I think, are they're two of the workhorses of NXT right now. Fallon Henley's been in that position for a little while, and and even being positioned as like a veteran right now in NXT, even though she's still relatively, I say relatively new. I mean, she's been wrestling for a few years now, but still, they're kind of pushing her and JC Jane as those veterans in Fatal Influence. These two, like I said, just Kelani and Fallon, absolute workhorses in NXT right now. I really liked kind of the story that they told throughout the course of this match. Wondering when Fatal Influence was going to inevitably interfere, which is what ended up happening. We saw JC Jane interfere towards the end of the match a couple times. The final time with a punch to Kelani Jordan's face to kind of finish everything off and allow Henley to hit a move, and I forget what the move was off the top of my head, but hit a move and then land the pin for the win. It was predictable in the fact that you knew Fatal Influence. I always want to say Fatal Attraction. You knew Fatal Influence was going to interfere. I had a feeling that that Fallon Henley was going to go over and win, just mainly due to the interference from Fatal Influence. So even though it was kind of predictable and I knew what was going on, I think the story that they told here, as well as just the overall match, it was very enjoyable. I'm really looking forward to seeing what Fallon Henley does as North American champion now that I'm assuming moves away from Kelani Jordan. I'm kind of assuming Kelani is going to wind up in the Iron Survivor Challenge qualifiers somehow. Maybe she'll plead to Ava next week, or Ava will give her a shot next week, or something like that. But I have a feeling that's probably she's gonna wind up in that match. That match is something I think that would play to her benefits, and maybe get her in the title scene, the NXT title scene. One thing with Fallon that I would like, or not Fallon, sorry, Kelani, that I would like to see is just a bit more character development. And I think they're getting there with how, I don't want to say demanding she's being. Demanding, I feel like has negative connotations to it. But she's going out back and she's making demands of Ava, wanting rematches and things. So it's kind of giving us a little bit more character development, that she's not going to just lie down, and she's going to go and fight for herself and her opportunities and things. But I don't know, it's still just a bit, I guess maybe
It's
a little
undercooked.
bland. Yeah, it's a little I guess I like that. It's undercooked. So I'm
like
hoping
it's getting there. It's getting there. She's not quite there to a character breakthrough yet, but I definitely agree. I feel like it's coming.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that this is a lead up to that for her. I'm hoping not a heel turn. I'm hoping that these this demanding behavior doesn't lead into a heel turn. Because I really like her as a babyface, but you never know, she might surprise us. Might surprise us as a heel.
Yeah, to my knowledge, we have not seen Kelani Jordan as a heel, so that could be interesting. Who knows? She could be great.
Yeah,
because people have done that on us before often. You don't think they'll make a good heel or a good face, they flip and they're incredible. They're way better than they were as whatever they were before.
Well, the one reason I think she may make a good heel is just the intensity that she has when she's on the mic. When she's on the mic, she's just like, she's got this aura about her that just makes her when she has kind of been making those demands out of like Ava and things. Like there's something there. And while I don't think it's time for her to turn heel, if they pulled that trigger, say they pull that trigger, at some point in the next few months, I think it could work. That she may have what it takes to make a good heel, which in turn would then propel her to make her a better babyface in the long run. But yeah, anything on this match before we move on?
No, I mean nothing that you didn't basically already touch on. Both of them good workers. All the moves look great. Everybody seemed to be working really safe. Predictable interference. And that's when I said to myself, like, Kelani needs some friends.
That she does.
The other side's going to turn on you.
That she does. All right, let's go to, we get a couple emails in the queue here. You can always email us, pwtorchnxt@gmail.com. If you can't listen live, you can send us emails throughout the course of the week, and we'll touch on them when we hit the show, or hit this show proper. We got an email here from JB, and then we also have an email from the good doctor, Kevin Catani. So let's hit the one from JB first. We'll hit the, actually, hold on. Before we hit the, you know what? JB's got quite a few points in his. So let's hit Kevin's first. JB's email came in first. I like to usually do them in order, but I think we're going to spend a little bit of time on JB. So let's hit Kevin's first here. And we'll go from there. Kevin says, salutations, gents. I hope this email finds you well. Wow, there was a lot of action tonight. I continue to be impressed with Javon Evans, and I may be in the minority, but I am interested to see where this Lexis King story arc is going. My first question is, since I haven't done this in a while, what do you all think Javon's floor and ceiling are? Will he get called up? Is he due for an extended NXT run? My other question relates to the women's division. They appear to be in a situation where there are too many players and not enough starting spots. Outside of the champs and primary contenders, who do you think they should be focusing on? Who can afford to be moved to the back burner? Thanks as always. Go VIP and listen to NXT 8 years back. Office hours are now over. The Professor, Kevin P. Catani, PhD. All right. So, Kevin, as always, appreciate the email. First off, I'm also pretty interested in this Lexis King story arc. In the report tonight, I kind of pointed out a couple things. I ended up writing the NXT live report on PWTorch.com tonight, both for PWTorch, just for regular PWTorch site as well as VIP members. So I apologize because I'm not the greatest at writing reports, but I was doing it for Kelly because I'm that kind of guy, folks. Anyway, but I wrote it in the report, like during the match, I saw him doing things that heels would do. And the one thing that comes to mind, there's a few things, but the one thing that really comes to mind, there was a point where Javon had him in like, it was a headlock or something like that. And King starts just grabbing at his ears and he's tugging at his ears. And, that's something that I could see like Ric Flair doing, like a really good heel. And there's a couple other things with the course of the match. And, like I said, I pointed out in the report. And then, of course, right at the end, right before a commercial break, Javon Evans gets beat down. And Lexis King looks like he's going to attack him. And then he kind of backs off. And he's like, oh, what do I do? As the ref's checking on, as the ref's checking on Javon Evans. So you got Lexis kind of conflicted, should I continue the onslaught? And I feel like it's just this big charade, right? Which I think obviously a lot of people do too, but there's just those kind of small little things that I'm seeing that kind of lead into that. I think him trying to be nice and break away from his father's reputation is some big charade, and I don't know what it's leading to. I don't know what his game plan is, and why he's doing it. But I'm here for it. And I think this is the most invested in Lexis King that I've been since since he's debuted. That's more than I thought I was going to talk about Lexis King. But while we're here, and you want to talk about Lexis King and anything about the match too, since we're here.
Yeah. Since there's not a whole lot more to cover outside of what you pretty much just talked about regarding the match itself. But yeah, I'm curious to see where this goes. I also think it's some kind of a charade, but I think they could get away with it just fine if it isn't. If this is legitimate, he's trying to be a good guy and all that. I think they could get away with that as a viable, progression of his storyline, no problem. But yeah, and I don't know. I don't buy it. It's really hard to buy him being anything other than, the shifty heel.
Yeah.
And that's why I would definitely agree with you there. But who knows, that it may end up not being the case.
What is Javon Evans' floor and ceiling? So, actually, I'll throw it to you first, and rather than always speaking and then throwing to you.
Oh man, ceiling. I mean, I love Javon Evans, so I don't know that he has a ceiling. But speaking more realistically, for right now, to more directly answer Kevin's question, I don't know that he's going to get called up immediately, but I don't know that he's necessarily due for a longer NXT run either. I think when they have a spot for him, he's definitely a good contender to get called up, but I think there's probably a couple of people ahead of the list from him right now. Trick Williams, Wesley, there's probably a few others. Those are the two that
those
immediately popped to mind for me.
Same. Those are the two names that immediately popped to mind, and I'm sure there's a couple others, but those are the two that I'd be very surprised if. Yeah.
Yeah, if he goes up before the two of them, I'd be shocked. So, extended run, probably not. But immediately, probably not either. So,
Yeah, I think
he's great. I love what he's doing. He's doing the over the top. He's doing the ricochet. He's doing the the things that nobody can do, this kid can do, thing, and he does it very well.
Yeah, I agree. I think I don't want them to be called up to the main roster before there's a spot for him. We've seen what happens in that point. I feel like Ricochet is a good example. I mean, in NXT, man, I thought they're like when Ricochet first got signed to NXT, I thought it was going to be like the greatest thing, and Ricochet did. He had a great run. He was North American champion and all of that, but then he gets called to main roster, and his entire run was just meh. He had some good moments, but I think everybody can agree Ricochet could have been so much more in NXT, and I worry about that for Javon Evans. There's a lot of similarities there between Ricochet and Javon Evans. If Javon Evans gets called up like right now, I feel like he's just going to get lost in the shuffle. I think there needs to be a good spot for him, and I don't know if there is one on the main roster right now. There might be, but not one that I can identify, at least off the top of my head. So
like nothing that's not like something in the mid card that's not really going to do him any favors. They could keep throwing him against like Austin Theory and Grayson Waller and those kind of guys, but that's not that they aren't great, but they're solidly in that mid card range. And I think if they're going to move him up, they need to really try and make him pop as best they can just to get him over with everybody.
I would hope so. And so I kind of think that we may see a bit more of it. Depends on what Kevin's definition of an extended run in NXT is, but I think Javon Evans has a lot left to do in NXT. Whether that be win a title or what have you, have a couple more marquee matches. He's already had the one versus Randy Orton. So I mean, that's a big feather in the cap. And as well as getting kind of just the Randy Orton rub after the match and all of that. But I think the North American title is something that's well within his grasp. One thing I'd love to see him win would be the Heritage Cup, So I think he could put on some amazing Heritage Cup matches. Like that would be great. So I would like to see Javon Evans. Not that he doesn't. I was going to say hone his craft. He doesn't really need to hone his craft much more. Maybe some like mic skills and things like that. But that's just that's like a real nitpick thing. I think we're going to see him in NXT for at least another year and a half. I'm going to say year to two, give or take. And I'm hoping we see him kind of get a couple more accolades under his belt before he goes up to the main roster. I want to see him have kind of a Wes Lee type trajectory. That would be ideal for me. That would be ideal.
I mean, hopefully without the injury in the middle, but otherwise, yeah.
Brian Alston came and he popped in for a little bit. He already popped out. Brian's on the West Coast, so he doesn't actually watch NXT live, but he likes to pop in and say hi. I missed it when he popped in and said hey, so hi. In case you end up watching live, or watching the recording rather. Hi Brian, always good to see you.
Hi Brian,
even though I didn't see you, always good to say hi. Anyway, let's go. Kevin asked a little bit about the women's division. We kind of talked a little bit about the women's division. So let's kind of move on here to JB's email. Hi team, it's JB from Detroit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read each question and we'll just kind of touch on it and then I'll go to the next one. So his first point, and actually they may not all be, well, anyway, they might not all be questions. I haven't, I kind of skimmed this. I haven't read the whole thing yet.
We will pause where necessary.
We'll pause when necessary. Thank you. Sometimes I get stuck. You unstuck me. Tonight almost felt like a goodbye from NXT and the fan base to Andre Chase. I think it's likely that he loses to Ridge Holland and is soon called up to the main roster post Survivor Series. If this happens, would Chase U join him? So that's kind of the first one. What's up with Andre Chase, and would Chase U join them if getting called up to the main roster? Me personally, I think Chase is ready. I fear for Chase on the main roster because I don't know if the Chase U gimmick would get over. So I don't know what he would then move on to do. So I'm a little nervous for him here. If he does keep the Chase U gimmick when going up, and he beats Ridge Holland or whatever, I could see Duke Hudson going up with him. Maybe Thea Hale, maybe. I think she'd be okay, but I also think she should probably spend some more time in developmental. Just being how young she is, just getting some more reps under her belt before she's on the main roster and on TV. But if she was getting thrown up to the main roster, I think she'd be okay. Riley Osborne, I think would get eaten up on the main roster. Nothing against him, but he's such a background player in Chase U. Even though he has had some prominent spots, he's every time I think of Riley Osborne, I need to really think about what his name is, which means he's not quite a star yet. So I think he needs some more time in NXT before going up. Would you agree with any of that, or different opinion on Chase U?
Yeah, I generally agree. I think that Chase, the Chase U gimmick works so well, obviously, because NXT is developmental. Having a school at a place where they're training makes sense. Whereas that doesn't really make sense because, the WWE's, it's the best in the world. Everybody wants to be here. Why do we have a university if everybody's the best in the world and is fighting for these championships that everybody like? It doesn't really work, at least in my mind. And to your point about like the Chase U members, yeah, we have a couple that I think would do well, a couple that would do okay, and then a couple that, as you put it, would get eaten. So yeah, Thea Hale, I think, could probably hang. But again, if they dissolve the Chase U gimmick, there's no reason for them to move up. Maybe have someone take over as the new, head of Chase U and keep that going in NXT. Maybe rename it. I mean, there's a lot of different things they could do. But without that behind him, it doesn't really make any sense. And I don't think it makes any sense to bring up to the main roster to begin with.
I would agree with you with that 100%. I think I kind of implied that, but I don't think I actually came out and said it. So thank you for coming out and saying it. Okay. Has Ridge Holland gotten over enough during the entirety of his multiple NXT and one main roster runs? It seems like he's been given countless opportunities relative to many wrestlers of his talent level, and I still don't really see him as a true contender for Trick's title. There's so much talent in the company across all three brands. I'm really just not sure what they see in Holland. I don't really disagree 100% with JB here. I think they've done a good job building Ridge up to be a heel and be a somewhat decent foil for Trick, but I mean, when I'm thinking about the potential main event for, well, I don't know if it'd be the main event. One of the Iron Survivor challenges, probably the main event. But when I go and think about the NXT title match for Deadline, a match between Trick Williams and Andre Chase doesn't really excite me. A match between Ridge Holland and Trick Williams doesn't really excite me. So I'm not really looking forward to the match, regardless of the outcome, unless somebody else winds up in the spot somehow. It's going to be Ridge Holland. I almost guarantee it, just because of the trajectory. Plus, face versus a face, if it was Chase and Trick, that's tough to pull off. They could do it, but it's tough to pull off. And I don't think Andre Chase is a big enough star for that to really work. It could, but I'm not super confident in it. So I think it's going to be Ridge Holland going over. I think Chase U is going to somehow be, going to be disbarred, not disbarred, but you know what I mean? It's the word I'm looking. They're not going to be a thing anymore. Disbanded. Thank you. That was the word I was looking for. Something. That was it. But yeah, so like I said, I think he's a good foil, he being Ridge Holland, for Trick right now, but he's still not believable. I don't think he has a chance in hell of even coming close to winning this match. Maybe they might have a couple false finishes and maybe you go, oh, maybe, but at the end of the day, I mean, if I was a betting man, all my money would be on Trick Williams. What about you? How you kind of feel about Ridge Holland right now?
I mean, I never saw any of like pre this, joining Chase U up to current, run. That's all I've seen of Ridge Holland. I really wouldn't say that I care about him, but I don't not care about him because, as you said, they've done a good job building him up for this. But he, for me, he's nothing special. He's a kind of a big guy doing kind of big guy moves. That's really all he's got. The character's not super interesting. The storyline's not bad, but the character doesn't, like, there's really nothing going on there. It's just he's sort of angry at the people who helped him for some reason.
And so you don't see him as a potential NXT champion?
No, at least not as of right now. Like you said, if him versus Trick 100% every time, no question. At least as of right this moment.
I mean, they could pull some sort of a swerve and put the title on Ridge, but I think it would be a mistake. Yeah,
especially where they just now got it back on Trick after taking it off of Ethan Page. Like it another time period maybe, but with events coming as quickly as they have in the last 4 to 6 months, I don't see it. I don't see it happening.
Yeah, and I can't believe I'm about to say this because God dang it, where did 2024 go? But we're coming up to WrestleMania season, stand and deliver season for NXT.
Yeah.
So things now we're going to really start to matter. We're going to start to see the stories start to shape up for Royal Rumble weekend, and I can never remember the PLE that NXT has Royal Rumble weekend, but they have one. So we're going to be building up to that, and then we're going to be building up to stand and deliver. So I don't see Ridge Holland fitting into the NXT title picture, really. I don't know what the title picture looks like with Trick Williams right now. Probably something with Ethan Page or something like that. I'm not sure, but I don't think it has Ridge Holland in it. Okay, what heavily gimmicked? Let me try that again. What heavily gimmicked faction has more main roster potential? Tony D's family or Chase University? I have to go with Tony D's family right now. And I hate saying that because I love Chase University. I really do. But Chase University's run its course. It's been around for a few years now. It feels like it's about to die. They haven't been given, I mean, granted, they've been kind of written off with Ridge Holland and stuff, but they haven't been on TV nearly as much as they used to be. Obviously, they're still in big stories here, especially with Andre Chase. Talk about him in the main roster or main title scene. So I can't say that they haven't had time. But it's different. It's different time. It's not the way it doesn't feel the same as it used to, whereas Tony D's faction, it's a lot newer. Right now, they're on a bit of a roll with Tony D as the North American champion. Adriana Rizzo, I think, is firing on all cylinders right now to be like that female break. When I say firing on all cylinders, her wrestling still needs work, and that is undeniable. But she understands. I can just tell she understands what she's doing and understands the character. So I'm hoping the wrestling comes, with time. The more matches that she has, the better she gets. But I really like Adriana Rizzo. So I personally, I think it's the family. What about you? The family or Chase U?
Well, I mean, I think I said what I wanted to say about Chase U already.
Yeah.
So I think that pretty heavily colors
yeah.
my answer here. But yeah, I think the family, while being gimmicky, is at least believable gimmicky. It's a mobster gimmick that could absolutely work on the main roster. I don't think they'd keep it around for a really long time. Once they start moving people up, I think they'd be looking to maybe start splitting people up either into tag teams, into singles competitions, however they do it, and kind of break up the family sort of quietly, not make a big thing out of it, or at least that's what I would do. Because I don't think the gimmick would last long term, but it is a fun gimmick, and it's something people are comfortable with, generally speaking, like as a group dynamic, the whole mobster thing.
Is randomly brawling at the end of an episode a really great example of the tag teams showing Ava something? If anything, I'd view that as manufactured intensity. JB, I can't agree with you more. Them just kind of like, even in the conference room when they all start verbally fighting with one another, like, I don't take that as like a good thing. Like she did. She was like, I love this energy out of you. And I mean, yeah, sure. Okay. I guess, even as a manager, all right, let's take this negative and turn it to positive. I love the energy, but let's do something more constructive with it, which I think maybe is what she was trying to say. But, then they just start brawling, and they start brawling outside, thinking of it, as a manager. Not that I have been a manager for many years, but I have been a manager at one point. Yeah, you wouldn't want your employees just randomly brawling, but this is wrestling. So maybe from a wrestling, if you're looking at it from a wrestling manager, like GM standpoint, maybe it's a good thing. It'll get people talking. I mean, hey, we were talking about it at the top of the show, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I think if anything, it's overdone, just kind of everybody brawling and stuff. But hey, there's only so many things that you can go to in wrestling. So you're going to see things a lot sometimes. All right, let's move on here. We've got JB's email. We got Kevin's email. All right, we're good. Let's kind of quickly touch on where we talked about Fallon Henley and Kelani Jordan. We talked about Lexis King, Javon Evans a little bit. Adriana Rizzo and Nikita Lyons. We saw Nikita Lyons go over 4 minutes and 30 seconds approximately. I accidentally cleared my timer like a couple seconds into the match, about like 30, 40 seconds into the match. So my time's an approximation, but about 4 minutes and 30 seconds. We saw Rizzo kind of get her heat back a little bit after the match by attacking Lyons with the crowbar. But this match was this was Lyons' time to shine here. Rizzo got a little bit of offense in to start and then a little bit of offense in the middle. But for the most part, it was Nikita just kind of squashing Adriana Rizzo, which should happen considering where they're billing, where they're billing Nikita and then where Adriana is on the card. Like, I'd be very surprised if Adriana actually beat her. This wasn't a bad match, and I can't believe I'm saying that. I thought Nikita's, and again, I can't believe I'm saying this, Nikita's a better wrestler between the two of them. And I thought it was spotty at times. There's a couple mistimed spots, and it wasn't always the greatest, but I went into this match with very low expectations. So maybe that's why, even though there was a few very, very clear botches here, it didn't really bother me. I really like Adriana Rizzo, and I kind of felt like, that fighting from underneath, trying to overcome the beast, the David and Goliath situation, if you will. I thought she did a really good job at that. And then obviously, she like I said, she did get her heat back at the end and hit her with the crowbar. So I kind of like the way that this played out. I don't think it's going to be the end between Rizzo and Lyons. But yeah, I don't know if there's a whole heck of a lot to talk about here, but anything you've got on this match?
No, I mean, it was, like I said, it was fine, I guess, which is all I could really hope for. I like Rizzo, but like you said, not the best wrestler at this point in time. I think that'll change, when she actually gets some more time in the ring, which she really doesn't ever get. And Nikita Lyons,
Yep.
That's just about all I got to say about that.
All right. Let's move on here. Actually, before we move on, I did just get a text from Kelly a little bit ago. Kelly's going through some family issues. I just want to take a moment, just say everybody keep Kelly and his family in your thoughts and stuff for the week. I'm sure he'll be back next week, and maybe he'll explain. I'm not going to air dirty laundry or no, not that it's really dirty laundry, but you know what I mean. I'm not going to air other people's business out there, but we're all a family. So the PWTorch family. So keep Kelly in your thoughts as we move into next week. Let's go to Wes Lee versus Cedric Alexander, Iron Survivor qualifier. Wes Lee in 11 minutes and 52 seconds goes over here. This I thought was a really good match. We had a really kind of a scary moment before a commercial break. I think in the first third of this match or so, when I was going to say Javon Evans, Cedric Alexander hit Wes Lee with a dive over the top rope, and he came up very short. He missed. I don't even think he made contact with Wes Lee, and if he did, it was a mere graze. Wes Lee kind of dived in to try and catch him a little bit, but Cedric came down really hard on the outside, holding his leg. The referee comes over to check on him. He makes kind of the okay symbol to the fans, and continued the match. So I don't think there was really a problem, but man, that was a bit of a scary moment there. This match was really exactly what you would expect out of Wes Lee and Cedric Alexander. I thought this was a fantastic, fantastic match. It started off the first minute was them kind of jockeying for position, a little slow, and then boom, they kicked into gear. As many flippy things as you would expect them to do, they did. I like this. Cedric, I thought, looked really good, even though, I think at this point in Cedric's career, he's there to make other people. I don't see Cedric really moving up the card at this point, which sucks because I really like him. But I think he did a good job. He did his job. He did it well. And I think Wes Lee looks great here coming out and into the Iron Survivor Challenge. Wes Lee versus Cedric.
I mean, I love Wesley. I don't know that I've honestly seen a bad Wesley match yet. At least since he's been back post injury, and yeah, he just always gives a really impressive match. Cedric Alexander as well. I've loved the flippy stuff, but I don't have a whole lot more to say on that other than they both did a very good job tonight.
They did the things, and they did the things well.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's keep going here. Sol Ruca versus Cora Jade, and we're gonna. Jobin and I talked about this a little bit before we went on air. We're gonna try and get through this a little quick tonight. So I got stuff going on too, but whatever.
Yeah, there's a few segments we're skipping over, but it's nothing. But we're gonna, we'll hit those huge. Briefly. Yeah, if relevant.
Yes. Sol Ruca versus Cora Jade, again, an Iron Survivor qualifier for the women. Obviously, she's not going to be in the same match as Wesley. She being Sol Ruca, who went over in 3 minutes and 33 seconds, a very short match. And I was hoping to get a little bit more out of this. I wanted to see a little bit longer of a match, but is what it is. What we saw, I thought was really good. Like I really liked the beginning. Sol Ruca wrestling circles around Cora Jade, basically, like, and Cora kind of like not being able to catch up. Just really showing how nimble and fast Sol Ruca is, and then Sol like gets her down on the ground, and then gets in where she stomach on the ground, and then gets on her back like she's riding her like a surfboard as a bit of a taunt and humiliation thing. Like I thought that was great. Cora wound up getting a little bit of offense in. But ultimately, Sol Ruca hit the Soul Snatcher. 3 minutes, 33 seconds for the win. I know you're a big fan of Sol Ruca. I'm a big fan of both Sol Ruca and Cora Jade. You haven't seen a whole lot of Cora Jade, I know, because you weren't watching NXT when she was injured or when she got injured. No. So all you've seen of her is since she's been back. Cora, I feel like her character work is improved immensely. Her in-ring work, I feel like she's kind of where she was, maybe a little bit better where she was when she left, which is good.
Also understandable if she's out for injury. She can only practice so much.
No, exactly. And I don't mean that as any sort of a knock on her by any stretch of imagination. I still think she's killing it. But yeah, there's still some times where I'm kind of just like, that could be a little bit tighter or whatever. But then again, I'm a guy that sits in a computer chair for most of my day, so I can't really, I can't really be that guy. You know what I mean? So yeah, anything on the match?
Not really. It was a solid short match. It did what it needed to do.
Yeah.
We got a winner for the Iron Survivor match, or qualifiers coming up and all that. So yeah, I mean, good match. Sol Ruca is always fun to watch, if nothing else. So
exactly. So this one might have a little bit more to talk about. We saw Jakara Jackson and Lash Legend versus Stephanie Vaquer and Julia. Stephanie and Julia went over in 10 minutes, 49 seconds. Jakara Jackson, Lash Legend, they are, kind of up on the main roster right now. As far as I'm aware, internally, they're considered to be on the main roster alongside Noam Dar and Oro Mensah. So at least that's what I've been reading. We'll see, but it seems like Metaphor is main roster bound. That said, the past few weeks, Jakara Jackson, Lash Legend have had some words with Stephanie and Julia, which led to this match here tonight. This match I thought was great. Had everything you really want in a good tag team match. You had the heels trying to cut off the face so they can't, can't make the tag. You saw the faces kind of doing the same thing. You saw the faces getting the good hot tag. I mean, it was a lot of good action here. But really, I think the big story coming out of this is the fact that both Julia and Stephanie have so far been a tag team. They've been on the same page. Obviously, they won here tonight after the match. Stephanie and Julia were interviewed in the ring by somebody I don't know. I don't know who this mysterious interviewer was. And I don't think they gave us a name for him either. I don't remember seeing him before. But I'm sure we'll see more of him. It wasn't a bad thing. Somebody.
It's Greg, the new hire.
Yeah. Greg the temp. Or would that be Ryan the temp for any of you Office fans out there? But now Stephanie and Julia are potentially going to be competitors in the Iron Survivor Challenge if they win their qualifiers. So, they kind of stood toe to toe, and I forget what they said to each other, but they basically had a one-liner in English that they kind of said to one another. It was like I think Julia was like, "I knew this time would come," and Stephanie said something equally as cheesy. But it works because English isn't their first language.
We'll see what you've got, or something like that.
Yeah. The fact that I don't remember what they said, it doesn't mean you're missing anything. Basically, it's just one little one-liner to one another, and then kind of squared up, as you might see in like an MMA weigh-in or something, kind of squared up nose to nose to end the segment. I'm really looking forward to that. I think. Right now, Stephanie and Julia working together has worked for storyline and worked to get them kind of into the mix. But man, that match when it happens, like even like they're going to be in the Iron Survivor Challenge. I'm sure they're going to be in the Iron Survivor Challenge together. That's going to be great. But I'm sure eventually we'll see these two in singles competition, and that is really what I can't look. That's what I can't wait for. I think that's going to be an absolutely phenomenal match. But then like Zarya too, like she's somebody that I keep forgetting about until I don't forget about her. And I'm like, oh my God, like she's also somebody that's going to make waves, I think, in the women's division. I think she's probably also going to wind up in the Iron Survivor Challenge. So yeah, anyway, get kind of your thoughts on Metaphor going up to the main roster, Jakara Jackson and Lash Legend, I guess, kind of more specifically, since it's kind of what we're talking about, but Metaphor as a whole. This match and the potential for a Julia and Stephanie feud, either singles or in the Iron Survivor Challenge.
So I mean, they've kind of already been doing somewhat the main roster thing. It's just women's tag titles being what they are in the WWE right now, being a single set of titles. People are kind of moving around, which I think in the long run is good in a way. It's, getting the titles on all the different shows is nice. Having people show up on other shows to challenge for those titles, also good. So, they've already been up there. They've already sort of been doing the main roster thing. Noam Dar, I think, will do okay. Oro Mensa, I'm not as confident about, but maybe as a team all together, I think they'll be fine. Not as sure there, but
yeah.
As far as the match itself, I mean, it was excellent. All four people here are terrific. It's been really fun to, especially in the case of like Julia, watching Japanese wrestlers come in is always fun because the style's very different in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And then Stephanie, I'm not as familiar with her background, but again, she's got a very, very different style to the, coming all the way up from brand new NXT all the way through. WWE has a very specific style that you tend to see. So it's nice to see those people come in from outside the company and kind of mix things up a little bit, and hopefully, spread those moves around a little more and add a little variety, to what everyone's doing, rather than just have everybody be doing the same moves largely the same way. I want Julia's new shirt.
Yeah. Jobin texted, not texted, sent me on Discord the new Julia shirt. Like, I want that so bad.
Mm-hmm.
It looks pretty sweet. Not gonna lie.
Check it out on the WWE shop, everybody. But yeah, no, it's pretty cool.
Stephanie coming from Mexico, spent a lot of time in CMLL, I think from 2019 to 2024 okay. In CMLL, and kind of various other indies. I want to say she started wrestling. I didn't know a thing about Stephanie when she jumped. So,
no.
But I think she's been wrestling since 2010, 11, something like that. But yeah, so anyway, with that, I think that's going to bring us to the end of our show. We did have some segments that we skipped over and things here, but you know what? That's okay. We can always talk about them next time. If you guys want to be a part of the show, email us, pwtorchnxt@gmail.com. I'm Nate Lindberg. You can check the things that I do out at natelindberg.com. Kelly is Kelly Wells. He's at Spooky Milk or spookymilk.games if you want to check out the games he makes, because he is a game designer. And Jobin, who are you?
I'm Jobin. I'm Nate's friend. You can check out the things that he does at natelindberg.com.
There we go.
I don't have anything to plug.
I always love doing that. It's just like, I'm Jobin. I'm Nate's friend. And I'm like, that's just the perfect way to end it.
Yeah,
I love it.
I don't have anything to plug.
No worries, man. No worries. Yeah. So Kelly hopefully will be back next week. If not, I will be here with somebody else. If not Jobin, maybe Kevin. But we'll see. We'll see what happens as the week progresses. So everybody, hope you have a good week, and we will see you next time. Take care.